Let's go back to Canberra now. Cam Redden is one of our federal political reporters, but let's talk about the national security event that is unplaying and unfolding right now. Outside the lodge. Cam, tell us about the threat that was delivered to the Prime Minister and the decision to move him from the lodge for his own safety.
Yeah, g'day, Paul. I'm standing outside the lodge at the moment, and as you can understand, this is quite a secure handling of the information coming out of this. But what we do know is that the Prime Minister has been evacuated from the lodge, that there was a security concern of some kind, the nature of which has not been described by anyone, including the police at this stage, and he's been taken to another location away from the lodge while that is being dealt with. And just the last minute or so, we have received a statement from the AFP, all of which confirms that a search is ongoing at the moment, that that's commenced and it's still happening, but they say there is no current threat to the community or public safety. So there's a small number of visible police around here, Paul, but no lights or sirens or anything of that nature. We don't know where the Prime Minister is at this stage, but we're told he's been taken to a different location while this search is ongoing.
Can you tell us about some of the information here about how we got to this being known publicly? Was the media aware of this because of the response of emergency services and thus there has been the confirmation from the Prime Minister's office? Tell us about the information flow that has taken place since the threat was apparently received about 3 hours ago, 6 o'clock local time.
Well, the news travelled, honestly, just through back channels, Paul, and I don't say that to be suspicious about where the information comes. Word of mouth, of all things, at the pub is how I found out about it, having a soda water on a quiet night. But what happened here was somebody suggested that there was a bit of activity outside the lodge, that there was some movement, and then after making some calls, that's what we've confirmed has happened. So in terms of what happens from here, there's this search ongoing. We expect some update in the next little while, and if we get more information about that, we'll bring it to you. Of course, a few hours ago, Paul, the Prime Minister was sitting in a lodge for an hour doing a podcast that was live streamed, and there were plenty of comments on there, as you can imagine, giving some feedback about that. So a couple of hours ago, it was all hunky-dory. Sometime between now and then, in the mid-afternoon, is when this threat has been noticed or notified, or they've become aware of it, and there was enough concern about it to then remove the Prime Minister from his place of residence, where he does live here in Canberra, even in non-sitting weeks, to then take him to a different place. And a few more cars that look unmarked to me of police officers just coming and going at the moment, but not a great deal of activity and not a great deal of clarity about the nature of this threat either at this stage.
Yeah, now look, again, this is an opinion show. I'm very strong about it, but I am also absolutely united with any and every person in the community who believes that any threat of violence towards the people you disagree with politically is absolutely disgraceful. Obviously, the full force of the federal police and all intelligence agencies will be trying to work back as to the source of the threat, and I certainly hope that they're able to work that out very quickly. It also sits in a wider environment where we have been told, either by the politicians themselves because of the threats that they are receiving due to things like social media. We've also heard it from security agencies about the number of personal threats that are made towards MPs. The Prime Minister has spoken previously about being the subjects of threats of violence. Now, this has happened to multiple politicians, multiple leaders over a long period of time. Of recent times, when Australia has been in and out of wars, these things have become heightened experiences. But certainly people are willing to talk more publicly about what they have to deal with if you choose to be a Member of Parliament or are honoured enough to become a Prime Minister.
Absolutely right. The AFP has said on the record, Paul, that the number of threats they receive or they are aware of that get reported to them by MPs at all levels, state and federal, are in the hundreds every year, and they do regular reporting on that. And the nature of those threats vary from somebody hurling abuse on social media to the sort of one that we've now seen tonight, where the Prime Minister has needed to be evacuated. Now, it goes without saying, there's plenty of security around the movements of the Prime Minister of Australia. It's a very well-known place where he lives. He says openly that he lives in the lodge in Canberra, but we don't know, as I say, the nature of this particular threat. I'm sure that certainly by the morning, Paul, we'll be able to say a little bit more about exactly what's led to this.
Yeah, all right, Cam. Now, for obvious reasons, anyone who's ever seen it with their own eyes, when you go to Canberra, you know that it is quite a large grounds, relatively small property, but a large grounds, obviously surrounded by all forms of security, both seen and unseen. It is the equivalent of the White House in terms of the lodgings of our country's leaders, so it is one of the safest buildings for anyone to be in, let alone the Prime Minister, who lives there, as you say, 24/7 when he's in Canberra. He uses that as his base. He doesn't live in Kirribilli House, as several other Prime Ministers of recent times have. Cam, if you know any more, jump on the line and, of course, we'll discuss it live on the air. Again, that breaking news, which Cam Redden brings us from outside the lodge right now, not under lights and sirens, but there are plenty of emergency vehicles that are around the lodge after receiving a threat to the safety of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is currently in a alternative safe location in Canberra. The threat that was received, 6 o'clock local time, as we move in about 3.5 hours later, is when we now know about it publicly, after there was some eagle eyes that were able to spot some of the movement of emergency vehicles towards the lodge. That then quickly made its way towards news outlets. The news outlets were then able to confirm it with the Prime Minister's office, and we were able to speak to a reporter as we have in real time. Again, I'm a passionate bloke, and I'm a person who obviously can get very focused about the rights and wrongs of certain politicians. But any and every example of somebody taking it too far, taking it to threats which are given online, or in this case, something that results in a threat to the safety of a politician, it is not acceptable. It is not appropriate. It is not in the name of the people who disagree with any form of politician in this country. We live in a country where the people who lead it must be safe and must be able to move amongst us, as of course they so seemingly effortlessly do. We'll have more as it comes to hand here on Sky News.